3 minutes before the college entrance exam, my mother sent a text message, shining, "If I'm gone, you must live well, in my previous life." It was this message that ruined me. I rushed out of the exam hall, frantically heading to the hospital, missing the college entrance exam, missing Hucking, missing the life that was meant to be mine later. She pretended to be sick, pretended to be pitiful, pretended to be the mother who loved me more than anyone in the world, pushing me to the brink of breakdown again and again. I was forced to drop out of school, trapped at home, becoming her living ATM for cashing in suffering points. At the age of 26, I fell from the hospital rooftop. Just before dying, I finally saw the words floating above her head. Those words told me that my mother was a task agent sent from another world. For 18 years, every accident she orchestrated, every tear she shed, was to exchange for suffering points, and I was her ATM. When I opened my eyes again, I was back 3 minutes before the college entrance exam. My dad's call came right after, his voice cracking, "Your mom swallowed sleeping pills, come home now." I clutched my phone, watching the words resurface above her head, and smiled. She wants me to break down, but I'll finish my exam. She wants to consume my suffering points, but I'll make sure she gets none. First in grade, fourth in the province. These scores were snatched from her mouth with my own hands after I was reborn. Chapter 1. There were many people outside the examination hall in June. I stood at the entrance of the teaching building, with my admission ticket tucked in my pocket, running through the classical Chinese translation one last time in my mind. The phone vibrated, a text message from my mom, shining, "If mom is gone, you must live well. I owe you so much in this life, and I can't repay it." I stared at the screen, my fingers not moving in time. Then my dad's call came in. The moment the call connected, he was almost shouting, "Your mom swallowed a whole bottle of sleeping pills, found her in the bathroom, pills all over the floor, come back now." Someone yelled on the other end of the line, "Don't touch her, call an ambulance." The chaos was overwhelming. In my previous life, it was right here that I broke down. I didn't even have time to explain to the invigilator. Clutching my admission ticket, I ran straight for the school gate. Of course, Fang Jinshu didn't die that day. She had only had her stomach pumped. Lying weakly on the hospital bed, clutching my hand and crying, but my college entrance exam was completely ruined. Later, I was blamed by all my relatives for being unreasonable, pitted by the school, resented by my father, and trapped by her, year after year of illness, tear after tear, by her side for a full 8 years, until I died on the hospital rooftop. I finally saw the words above her head. Now, those words have appeared again, lines of translucent text, suspended in the air, visible only to me. Task Agent Fang Jinshu initiates the ultimate suffering event. Target: create a suicide-related emotional trigger before the host's college entrance exam. Suffering value estimated plus 200. 1 suffering point can be exchanged for 8 million energy points in the main world. I clutched my phone and smiled instead. Tasker: suffering value, exchange. The truth that tormented me to death in my previous life was laid out before me right from the start of this one. A few more lines surfaced below. Fang Jinshu has been lurking in this world for 18 years, accumulating a total suffering value of 1,650. List of historical suffering events. Host suffered food poisoning at age 6, suffering value plus 80. Host fell and fractured a bone at age 10, suffering value plus 120. Host was framed at age 15, nearly expelled, suffering value plus 150. My hands began to tingle. That year, when I was 6, I drank a bowl of spare rib soup my mother had stewed, and in the middle of the night, I vomited and had diarrhea, being rushed to the hospital for a full night of stomach pumping. She cried outside the emergency room for 3 hours, and even the nurses came to comfort her. 10 years old, on weekends, she took me to the park, and I fell off the climbing frame, suffering a comminuted fracture in my left leg. She knelt before my hospital bed, saying she hadn't held me properly, that she didn't deserve to be a mother. 15 years old, someone stuffed a valuable silver bracelet into my school bag, and the homeroom teacher accused me of stealing, nearly giving me a disciplinary record. She rushed to the school and made a scene, demanding justice for me, sobbing and weeping bitterly. In the end, although the truth was finally uncovered, the rumor of stealing followed me for an entire semester. Every single thing, every incident I thought was an accident in my previous life. I didn't learn the truth until the very end of my life. In this life, they were laid out before me in advance. All of it was her doing. The floating text continued to scroll. Supplement: during the host's theft incident at age 15, The silver bracelet was personally placed in the host's backpack by Fang Jinshu. The purchase channel has been destroyed. The phone kept ringing. Gu Yuanjing's voice was completely hoarse. Say something. Your mom is dying. Another line of text floated out. Poor kid. That's how he missed the college entrance exam in his previous life, and never recovered from it. Fang Jinshu picked the timing perfectly. I clutched my phone, holding it tightly for a long time. In my previous life, I lost because I trusted her too much. This life, I even feel it's a waste of time to look back, then hang up, turn off the phone, tuck the phone into the innermost compartment of the backpack and zip it up. The examination room is on the 3rd floor. As I went up the stairs, my legs felt a little weak. But not because I was afraid. The invigilator checked the admission tickets at the door. I handed over my ID. Teacher, please keep my phone for a moment. She glanced at me, nodded, and pointed to a seat inside. I walked in and sat down, closed my eyes, opened them again. The floating words completely disappeared. All that remained before her eyes were the exam paper and the answer sheet. In the previous life, she stepped on my breakdown to take away 2 billion. In this life, after 18 years of hard study, she still wants to turn me into a waste. I refuse. I will use my scores, my university, my future to shatter her script piece by piece. Chapter 2. The last exam ended, and the sky had already turned pitch black. The school gate was packed with parents. Some held flowers, others hugged their children and cried. No one is waiting for me. I stood under the streetlight for a while, then hailed a taxi. First City People's Hospital. The driver glanced at me in the rearview mirror and said nothing. It was almost 9 o'clock when we arrived. The lights in the hospital corridor were cold and pale, and the smell of disinfectant was overpowering. Gu Yuanjing was leaning against the door of the ward, smoking. When he suddenly looked up at the sound of footsteps, he threw his cigarette to the ground and rushed over in 3 strides. When the slap came, I didn't flinch. Her face turned to one side, her left ear buzzed, and there was a metallic taste in her mouth. You still know how to come back. Your mother took sleeping pills and you didn't come back. Are you made of stone? A nurse poked her head out in the hallway, then quickly withdrew. An old man pushing a wheelchair shook his head, probably thinking the kid was out of line. Gu Yuanjing's finger almost poked me in the nose. You didn't come after the Chinese exam. You didn't come after the math exam. You only showed up after everything was over. Are you even human? I slowly turned my face back. My left cheek felt hot. It must have swollen. In my previous life, after this slap, I knelt outside the hospital room crying, saying I was unfilial, but now, I just find it ridiculous. I looked at him. Is she dead? Gu Yuanjing stood there in a daze, his mouth slightly agape, but no sound came out. Floating text emerged once again. Ning did not break down, did not abandon the exam. The triggering conditions for the hardship event were not met. Fang Jinshu's operation this time has failed. Hardship value +0, due to the consumption of a large amount of disguise resources. Fang Jinshu cannot leave this world in the short term. Continue to lie low and wait for the next high hardship value event window. 8 million hardship points. Who would be willing to leave? I shifted my gaze away from the floating text on the hospital bed. Fang Jinshu slowly opened her eyes. Her face was sallow, her lips chapped and peeling, with an 4 catheter inserted in her left hand, and her back of the hand was bruised with purple and blue marks. The moment she saw me, her eyes welled up with tears. Ning, you're here. She struggled to raise her right hand toward me, her fingers trembling. Mom thought I'd never see you again. Gu Yuanjing quickly leaned in to support her. Don't move. The doctor said your stomach has been pumped, and you shouldn't get agitated now. Fang Jinshu shook her head, tears streaming down, her voice breaking in her throat. Ning, come here, let Mom look at you. I didn't move. Her hand hung in midair, paused for 3 seconds, then slowly withdrew and rested on the blanket. Her shoulders began to tremble. It's Mom's fault. Mom shouldn't have done something foolish during your exam. Gu Yuanjing turned his head and glared at me. Come over here and call her Mom. She almost lost her life. I ignored him. I looked at Fang Jinshu, watching how every tear rolled down, how her lips trembled, how she performed weakness and guilt down to the very tips of her eyelashes. Great. Last time, she tricked me into kneeling by her hospital bed, swearing I would never leave her again. This time, she wants to put on the same act again. 18 years, and the acting has only grown more polished. The ward fell silent for a few seconds. A family member from the next bed coughed, probably wanting to smooth things over but too embarrassed to speak up. Gu Yuanjing's fists were clenched so tightly that his knuckles turned white. I adjusted the straps of my school bag upward. Just as long as she's not dead. I turned and walked out, what Gu Yuanjing shouted behind me. I didn't catch clearly. Fang Jinchu's sobs suddenly rose in volume, louder and louder. The corridor was long, the sound of my shoes stepping on the floor was even and steady. A few more lines of floating text drifted out. Shi Ning's reaction has seriously deviated from the original script. Original plot: Shi Ning abandons the exam, rushes to the hospital, wails and cries, and breaks down emotionally. Current status: Shi Ning remains emotionally stable. Fang Jinchu's suffering plan has completely failed. I stared at the words, completely failed, and for the first time, my chest loosened with relief. Revenge doesn't always have to be loud and chaotic. As long as I don't break down the way she scripted it, she won't gain a single cent. The last line of text changed color, turning dark red. Warning: Fang Jinshu will not let this go. The intensity of the next hardship event will escalate significantly. I stopped in my tracks, staring at that line of red text for 2 seconds, until it slowly faded away. Next time, there's always a next time. Chapter 3, 1 week later, Fang Jinshu was discharged from the hospital. On the same day, someone came to the house. A girl was standing in the living room, about my height, but thinner, with a low ponytail. She looked up and saw me, then immediately lowered her head, her voice so soft it was almost inaudible. Hello, sister. Before I could react, Gu Yuanxian spoke first. Ningning, sit down. There's something I need to tell you. He didn't look at me, staring at the unlit cigarette in his hand. Her name is Gu Yao. She's my daughter from outside. She's the same age as you. The words floated out. Gu Yao, born from Gu Yuanxian's extramarital affair, same age and birth month as Shi Ning. Fang Jinshu actively introduced the illegitimate daughter into the family. Purpose: to create a family-splitting hardship event. Estimated hardship value plus 180. Fang Jinshu came out of the bedroom. The bandage on her forehead hadn't been removed yet, her face still pale, but she walked steadily. She stood between Gu Yuanjing and Gu Yao, staring at Gu Yao for a few seconds. Then she turned to me, her eyes welling up. Ningning, Mom kept it from you because I was afraid you couldn't bear it. Your father was with another woman when I was pregnant with you. Gu Yuanjing slammed his cigarette onto the coffee table and said nothing. Gu Yao lowered her head even further, her shoulders trembling. Fang Jinshu's voice grew louder, breaking into sobs. I've endured it for 18 years. 18 years, do you know how I've made it through? All the bitterness I swallowed was for you. I was afraid you'd grow up in an incomplete family. She covered her face and crouched down, crying uncontrollably. Out of breath, Gu Yao suddenly spoke, her voice choked with emotion. Auntie, I'm sorry. It's all my fault. I shouldn't have come. I'll leave now. She took a step back toward the door. Fang Jinshu grabbed her wrist. Why are you leaving? It's not your fault. She looked up at Gu Yuanjing, her face covered in tears. It's him who's wrong to everyone. They sang in unison. The rhythm was perfectly synchronized. Floating words drifted by. Fang Jinshu's combination, the trigger condition for suffering value. Shi Ning loses emotional control and runs away from home. Original plot direction: Shi Ning makes a scene, slams the door and leaves, ends up on the streets, encounters danger, and completely falls into ruin. The suffering value will reach the upper limit of this world. I finished reading the floating text. In my previous life, I really did slam the door and run away. That night it was raining, and I sat in the internet cafe until dawn. The next day I got a fever and was hospitalized, adding another big chunk of suffering points for her. This time, I didn't take a single step. Instead, I walked straight through them, entered my room, and closed the door behind me. Fang Jinshu's sobs paused outside the door, as if a record had been paused. 2 seconds later, they started again, louder than before. Chapter 4, The Drama. Outside the door lasted a full hour. Fang Jinshu cried, Gu Yao trembled, and Gu Yuanjing remained silent. The three of them worked together as if they had rehearsed dozens of times. I sat at the desk and flipped the college application guide to the 3rd page. Around 9 o'clock, Fang Jinshu knocked on the door. Ningning, come out and eat. Her voice had returned to normal, no longer crying, steady as if nothing had happened. I opened the door. She stood at the doorway, holding a bowl of porridge, her expression gentle. Mom made mung bean porridge. It'll help cool you down. I didn't take it. I want to ask you something. Go ahead. Where does Gu Yao live? Fang Jinshu paused for a moment, a hint of unease flashing across her face. I let her stay in the guest room. Her mother ran off a couple of months ago, and she has nowhere else to go. Your dad said we can't just ignore her. I feel for the child too. I looked into her eyes. All right, from now on, she'll be eating and living here. Where will the expenses come from? Fang Jinshu didn't expect me to ask this and paused for a moment. From the household budget, of course. Your dad's monthly salary, I mean my tuition, will that still be covered as usual? Fang Jinshu's smile froze for half a beat. Of course it will, you're my daughter. How could we not pay your tuition? I nodded and took the bowl of porridge. That's good. He closed the door. I didn't drink the porridge. I poured it into the bathroom sink. The floating words drifted out again. Fang Jinshu added a trace amount of emotional disruptor to the porridge. Effect, after consumption, symptoms such as anxiety, insomnia, and irritability will occur, lasts 3 to 5 days, undetectable by routine medical examinations. Purpose, to make sure Ning make incorrect judgments during the college application period. I watched the green porridge at the bottom of the sink slowly drain away. She didn't even spare a bowl of porridge. I washed the bowl and put it back in the kitchen. As I passed through the living room, Guyao was huddled in the corner of the sofa, holding a glass of water. Seeing me, she immediately stood up. Sister, she hesitated, then pressed her lips together. I really don't want to trouble you. I didn't stop walking. No trouble at all. Back in the room, I locked the door, opened the phone memo and start recording. First, do not eat any of Fang Jinshu's bowls of soup, cups of water, or meals. Second, all accidents, coincidences, and kindness surrounding me are to be silently considered as preludes to suffering events. Third, the college entrance exam results are not out yet, but no matter the score, I will fill out the application myself. Don't let anyone touch it. Fourth rule, the debts owed to me in the previous life. Don't rush to cry, don't rush to make a scene. Record each one clearly, wait until there's enough evidence, then settle everything at once. Chapter 5, on the day the results came out, I was in the hospital, not accompanying Fang Jinshu, coming here for a comprehensive health checkup by myself. Registration, blood draw, X-ray, ECG, full set. The results came back all normal. In other words, the things Fang Jinshu poured into my body over the past 18 years didn't cause any permanent damage. She still has some sense of propriety. After all, if the tool breaks, it won't work anymore. In my previous life, I never understood why she always stopped at the edge of sufficiently painful but not fatal when harming me. Now I understand. The ATM can't be scrapped, otherwise the suffering value won't keep flowing. As I stepped out of the hospital gate, my phone vibrated. It was a call from my homeroom teacher. Sure Ning, 723 points, 4th in the province. Do you know what schools you can get into with this score? She was practically screaming. I said, I know, thank you, teacher. Hung up. The second call was from Gu Yuanzheng. Your mom said you left early this morning. Where did you go? Taking care of something. 723 points. Have you heard? Your mom is over the moon and wants you to come back right away so she can cook you something delicious. I held the phone, the corner of my mouth twitching slightly, unsure if it counted as a smile. Cook something delicious? No need, I'll eat out. Hang up. It was already evening when she got home. Several people were sitting in the living room. Fang Jinshu's 2 sisters and a colleague of Gu Yuanzheng's. Fruits and sunflower seeds were laid out on the coffee table, and Fang Jinshu sat in the middle, smiling brightly. Our Ningning scored 723, 4th in the entire province. Several people began to praise her one after another. This child is so determined. Jinshu, you're so blessed to have raised such an outstanding daughter. Fang Jinshu humbly waved her hand, but her eyes glanced in my direction. It's all the child's own hard work. I just made sure she was fed. I continued changing my shoes without stopping. Guyao peeked out from the kitchen, wearing an apron and holding a plate of washed grapes. Is sister back? Congratulations. Among Fang Jinshu's sisters, a woman with permed hair glanced at Guyao from head to toe, leaning close to Fang Jinshu's ear. Her voice wasn't low enough. This is the one. Fang Jinshu's smile froze for a moment, then quickly returned. Yao Yao, just put the grapes down, go do your homework. Guyao seemed to have been burned, lowered her head, placed the grapes on the coffee table, and turned to leave. As she passed by me, I caught the scent of dish soap on her. Floating words drifted out. Fang Jinshu's plan enters the next phase. Core strategy, shift all family resources and social attention to Guyao. Make sure Ning feel the pain of being replaced. Estimated suffering value plus 120. After reading it, I walked into my room. I opened my laptop and logged into the college application system. First choice major institution, Huaqing University. Confirm submission. Change the password. Only I know the new password. In my past life, she forced me to drop out of school by lying about having terminal cancer. This life, she won't even get to lay a finger on my first choice application. Chapter 6. Over the next 3 days, Fang Jinshu's attitude toward Guyao shifted completely. She stopped treating her like that poor child and started calling her my other daughter during meals. Guyao sat beside Fang Jinshu. Fang Jinshu kept piling food and soup onto Guyao's plate, chattering non-stop, "Yao Yao, eat more, you're far too thin. Yao Yao, this outfit of yours is worn out, I'll take you shopping for 2 new ones tomorrow, auntie will pay." Gu Yuanjing sat across the table, his face a tangled mix of guilt and gratitude. "Jinshu, you're not mad anymore." Fang Jinshu sighed and tapped his wrist lightly with her chopsticks. "Why would I stay angry at a kid? None of this was her fault, but I haven't forgotten what you did, though." Gu Yuanjing shrank his neck and said nothing more. I sat opposite them, quietly eating the loaf of bread I'd bought outside. Fang Jinshu shot me a glance. "Ningning, why are you eating bread? There's plenty of food on the table." "I'm not hungry, you're such a stubborn girl. The college entrance exams are over, you ought to unwind a little." She turned back to Guyao, her tone warm and affectionate like a birth mother's. "Yao Yao, how did you score on the college entrance exam?" Guyao set down her chopsticks and mumbled softly. 561 points. Fang Jinshu let out a surprised exclamation. 561 is a solid score, that's more than enough for second-tier undergraduate universities. Take your time picking schools, and auntie will help you sort through the options. Gu Yuanjing nodded in agreement. "Exactly right, I'll ask people to give you advice on your choices." Not a single person bothered to ask what university I'd listed as my first choice. Floating words materialized before my eyes once again. Adjusting the phase goals, Fang Jinshu discovered that Ning Yi is not easily triggered by direct hardships, so she shifted to a long-term draining strategy method, creating persistent emotional trauma through favoritism, neglect, and skewed resource allocation. At the same time, she is winning Guyao over to her side, creating a 2 versus 1 dominant position. I swallowed the last bite of bread. I stood up. "Dad, my admission letter should arrive around early August. By then, tuition and accommodation fees will total about 23,000 yuan." Gu Yuanzheng was peeling shrimp and paused for a moment. "Got it, I'll transfer the money then." Fang Jinshu suddenly butted in. "Ningning, can you do Mom a favor these 2 days?" "What favor?" "Mom has 1 more chemotherapy session next week. It'd be reassuring to have someone with me." She said it lightly, as if casually mentioning it. The floating text coldly scrolled a line. "Fang Jingshu's cancer is a virtual illness redeemable with points. Vital signs data are completely real, enough to fool any medical test, but there's no actual harm. Fang Jingshu herself will feel no discomfort. Purpose, to bind Ning's time and energy through caregiving, consuming her preparation period before college." I glanced at Fang Jingshu. Her expression was soft, even a little wounded. A mother who has just finished chemotherapy asks her daughter to accompany her. It's only natural. Who could say no? "Okay, which day next week?" "Tuesday." "I'll go with you." Fang Jinshu smiled, reaching out to pat the back of my hand. My Ningning is still the most thoughtful. I didn't pull my hand away. Her fingertips were at normal temperature, unlike those of a chemotherapy patient, but I didn't mention this detail. Chapter 7. On the day of chemotherapy, I pushed Fang Jinshu into the doors of the oncology department. She was wearing a hospital gown, a silk scarf tied around her head, and her complexion was perfectly tinted a sickly yellow. The nurses at the station glanced over and whispered, "Is this the daughter who scored 723? What a filial child." Hearing this, Fang Jinshu smiled and waved her hand. The child felt sorry for me and insisted on coming along. Entering the chemotherapy room, she sat down, and the nurse attached an 4 to her. I sat on the stool beside her, flipping through a college-level textbook I had prepared in advance. Fang Jinshu closed his eyes, occasionally furrowing his brow, his breathing deliberately uneven. After a few minutes, she suddenly spoke. "Ningning, Mom wants to discuss something with you. Go ahead." She opened her eyes and looked at the ceiling. "Your grades are good enough for any school, but Mom's health is like this, and your dad is struggling to support the family alone, plus the expenses for Yao Yao." She slowly turned her head to look at me, her eyes glistening with tears. "Could you not go to a school so far away? Stay within the province, stay with Mom, and Mom will feel at ease." The floating text popped up instantly. Fang Jinshu was trying to change Sherning's college application direction. If Sherning gives up on Huqing University and stays in the province, Fang Jinshu will gain long-term control. Suffering points can enter a period of sustained and stable growth. I closed the textbook. The application has already been submitted. Fang Jinshu's expression froze for a moment, very brief, less than a second, then she forced a smile. What school did you apply to, Hua Qing? There was a brief silence in the chemotherapy room. The patient in the next bed coughed. Fang Jinshu kept a smile on her lips, but I saw her hand with the 4-line tighten. Hua Qing is great, Hua Qing is great, Mom is happy for you. Her voice remained steady, but when she turned her head away and stopped looking at me, the floating text turned red. Fang Jinshu's internal state, plan obstructed, emotional fluctuations intense, re-evaluating suffering value acquisition path. New strategy generating. I stared at the new strategy generating for 5 seconds until it disappeared. After the chemotherapy ended, I pushed Fang Jinshu out. In the hallway, Gu Yuanjing walked toward her. Following behind him was Gu Yao. Gu Yao was carrying a bag of fruit. Seeing Fang Jinshu, she quickly hurried over. Auntie, I bought your favorite cherries. Fang Jinshu's expression instantly changed, as if flipping a switch. Oh, Yao Yao, you silly child, why spend this money? She patted Gu Yao's head. You're more considerate than your sister. The words were spoken just loud enough for me to hear. I pushed the wheelchair without saying a word. Gu Yuanjing probably sensed the awkward atmosphere and quickly changed the subject. All right, let's go home. The car was very quiet on the way back. Fang Jinshu sat in the passenger seat, resting with her eyes closed. Gu Yao sat beside me, her hands resting on her knees, fingers twisting together. She hesitated for a long time before finally speaking softly. Sis, you ranked 4th in the province. That's really amazing. I gazed out the window. Yeah, I wanted to do better too, but no one ever looked after me when I was little, so my foundation is just too weak. A score of 561 isn't bad at all. She blinked, as if she hadn't expected me to say that. But you're still far behind. That's different. She fell silent, lowering her head to continue twisting her fingers. A line of floating text quietly slipped out. Gu Yao's current faction affiliation, undetermined. Fang Jinshu is trying to turn her into a pawn for their side. Key variable, Gu Yao's own will. I glanced at Gu Yao. Her nails were trimmed very short, and her fingers bore rough lines from prolonged exposure to cleaning agents. Does this girl even know she's on Fang Jinshu's chessboard? No. In my previous life, I also saw her as the enemy who stole my father, and we tore each other apart until both were wounded. In the end, Fang Jinshu reaped the suffering points. In this life, I will no longer stab another person who is being used, but now is not the time to worry about that. Chapter 8. The admission letter arrived. When the courier called to ask me to go downstairs to sign for it, I was in my room organizing the books I was taking with me. Go downstairs, sign, and open it. Red hardcover with the school name embossed in gold. Hua Qing University admission notice. Major, Finance. I looked at it for 2 seconds, closed it, and tucked it under my arm as I went upstairs. When I entered, Fang Jinshu and Gu Yuanjing were sitting in the living room. There was an extra document on the coffee table, and Gu Yuanjing was flipping through it. Seeing what I was holding, Fang Jinshu stood up. Is it the notice? I placed the notice on the coffee table. Fang Jinshu picked it up, flipped it open, glanced at it, then closed it again. Hua Qing, how nice, she said, her smile lasting for 3 seconds. Then she picked up the document on the coffee table and handed it to me. Ning, take a look at this too. I took it. It was a medical report. Fang Jinshu's name, stomach cancer, advanced stage. The metastatic lesions have spread to the liver and lymph nodes. Hospital seal. Date is 3 days ago. Last time the checkup said I needed a full re-examination. Fang Jinshu's voice began to tremble. The results are in. Much worse than before. She sat back on the sofa, her hands folded on her lap, her fingertips turning white. The doctor said, at most 8 months to a year. Gu Yuanjing turned his face toward the window. Is Adam's apple moving? Twice, the floating text exploded before my eyes. Fang Jinshu spent 500 suffering points to redeem the virtual condition. Cancer progression, new data, metastatic lesions, lymphatic spread, abnormal liver function indicators. All medical tests can verify this, but it causes no actual harm to Fang Jinshu herself. Objective, to completely bind Shi Ning with a countdown to death, forcing her to abandon college or drop out midway, if Shi Ning gives up her studies to care for her mother. Suffering points will increase by 500 at once. I stared at the diagnosis report. The diagnosis report stamped with the red seal of a top-tier hospital. Anyone who sees this will believe it. Fang Jinshu's tears fell. Ning, Mom doesn't want to be a burden on you. You should go to school. Don't worry about me. The more she said, don't worry, the more she meant, you must take care of me. Gu Yuanjing finally spoke, his voice muffled. Maybe, take a year off first, wait until you're Mom's treatment stabilizes before going. Tsinghua should be able to keep your student status. Fang Jinshu immediately shook her head. No, we can't delay the child. She covered her mouth, sobbing, even if I die, I can't let Ningning take a leave of absence. Good acting. The floating text drifted another line. Original plot. Sure, Ning is emotionally manipulated by family ties and agrees to take a leave of absence to care for her mother. Afterward, Fang Jinshu will continuously